Today, I'm going to unbox Twilight Struggle, Red Sea, Conflict in the Horn of Africa. This is a game designed by Jason Mathews, graphics by Terry Leeds, and published by GMT Games, which were kind enough to send me a copy to take a look at. If this looks familiar, well, this is following in the Twilight Struggle family. This is one of GMT's more famous games. Subject of a lot of debates on whether it's a war game or not, but suffice to say, at least in my opinion, this is a good game. It's a two-player game dealing with the Cold War, very asymmetrical, introduced a lot of different type of mechanics into kind of a tug-of-war type combat or political combat in the Cold War that has been used in a lot of other games over time, and be interesting to see how they take it to this game, which is a little bit smaller footprint and smaller game in this series. In fact, they say this is part of their lunchtime series or something like that. Let's take a look at the back of the box here. Twilight Struggle, Red Sea, Conflict in the Horn of Africa. It's a two-player, standalone, card-driven game that builds upon the award-winning Twilight Struggle. Okay, Twilight Struggle Red Sea asks the players once more to answer the summons of the trumpets and bear the burden of Twilight Struggle. This time centered around East Africa, the Arabian Gulf, and the vital sea lanes stretching between them. Twilight Struggle Red Sea is an addition to GMT's Lunchtime series and packs deep decision-making into a time frame that allows players to get in a quick game and explore different strategies several times in one session. With a more limited scope and much more shorter playtime, Twilight Struggle Red Sea is a perfect way to introduce players to Twilight Struggle system, and yet the game maintains all the tension, decision-making and theme of the original classic. So, and plus I think you can take cards from Twilight Struggle and put them in here, or vice versa. It says something about that. It'd be interesting to see how that works. Also, solitaire system included. So I wonder if it has like a built-in bot or AI in there. Complexity is 3. Solitaire suitability is, what is that? Is that a 9? I guess with that bot, it'd be interesting to see what that looks like. So let's get inside the box and see what we have here. The aspect of having it be solo is intriguing. That's something you really can't do with Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle is really meant to be an opposed game, and plays very well that way. In fact, it suffers a little bit if somebody plays a lot. I have not played it a lot, but I know that people that have played it a lot or played it competitively, you kind of get the deck memorized, and so you know the optimal plays just because you know what cards are kind of out there. It's kind of like guessing into a 6-deck shoe, so to speak. Anyway, here's the box. Very sturdy, smaller kind of box. This is, I think these are the boxes that their Lunchtime series, I guess, goes in. I assume Fort Sumter and Red Flags are in that Red Lunchtime series, maybe. Here's the Rulebook. 16 pages, but this maybe lists out some of the card distribution, optional rules, tournament play. So it looks like the rules may be only 14 pages, a dual column, plus you got a quick start rules here. So not a lot of rules here. A little bit smaller print maybe. Color though, full color. Some examples in here. Some designer notes. So yeah, so if you're familiar with Twilight Struggle, this one shouldn't be too hard to pick up. Honestly, it's been a while since I played Twilight Struggle. I think one of the last expansions to come out that dealt with China or something like that. I played it after that with my son, but then I haven't got it since then. Wow, the solo rules. Solo rules are a little bit thicker. 28 pages. We get the solo rules. Of course, this is also the background booklet, so this is going to have some background in here too. So here's 2-player example. So it looks like we got an example off the start here, going card by card. That's all good. And then you got solo opponent rules starting on page 8. Dual column. You've got some important notes here throughout. And then it looks like we've got an example of play here, possibly, for the solo. Then you got card background. So 8 pages. Starting on 16, we have the card background. So this is talking, and I like this. This is from Twilight Struggle as well. But they talk about the cards, and then you got a little bit of the history of the cards. And the cards themselves usually have a little bit of historical text or context on them. And then having this book here, if you really want to get into the history a little bit more, you can. And the rest of this, I think, is the background on all the cards, because this is a card-driven game. Designer notes and solo design notes. So there you have it. Who designed the solo game? It says there. Jason Carr designed the solo game. We got the card play summary. So we got player aid. So we got 2 decent thickness card play summary. So 2 of those, and on the back is, looks like this might be kind of the main phases, maybe. Approved DEFCON, deal cards, headline phase. So these are like the phases. So you got 2 of those. You get this U.S. playable events table and USSR playable events table. Good thick player aid there. And we got a fold out here. So this is a USSR space selection table. And this must be for solo play. U.S. action round priorities, and then U.S. space selection table. Okay. So this is solo. So if you're playing against Russians, I guess, against the USSR, this is what it does. And if you're playing against the U.S., this is what it does. So that's cool. So you can play either side. You're not stuck with one or the other. Here's your counters. They're pre-rounded, come out pretty easy, relatively easy. And double-sided there. These are some of your administrative counters. Then, of course, you have the tracking influence in an area. And then probably some special events that come from the cards. Then we get the board, which is mounted. Decent size there. 2 dice, got a red and a blue. That's kind of cool. Oh, we've got stars on it, and we have a sickle, hammer and sickle. That's awesome. Then you get the cards. So let's move stuff out of the way here. See what the board looks like. And we have the space race again here. So look at that. That all fits in frame. Nicely done here. So you've got a little bit of a player aids on the board here, talking about a coup attempt, realignment rolls, place influence markers. So you've got a little bit of explanation of how to play the game on the board itself, and that's the same on either side. So playing 2-sided. Then you have in the middle here, you've got the Horn of Africa. And you'll have these boxes because that's where you put these counters. That's where you're going to put these influence counters, keeping track of who's controlling the region. As it gives us a little bit of a tug of war here. Then you got the victory point track, action round track, required military operations, space race track. You get your DEFCON. And then, so you've got a lot of the things that are in Twilight Struggle, but in a much smaller map and a lot more player aids on there. So that's kind of interesting. That this truly, in that regard, this does look like it would be a good introduction to the system. So let's take a look at the cards here. I think the cards have the same back that are in Twilight Struggle, so yeah, so maybe you can just intermingle or use stuff in either one. They're a little bit thin. I think the ones in Twilight Struggle might be that way too, but still not bad. I mean, there's a good feel to it. Something you might want to sleeve. I didn't sleeve my Twilight Struggle. I don't play it as enough or as much to probably do that. There's Zbigniew Zabinski. Yeah, easy for you to say. And you have stuff that's like mid-war and late war. And there should be something. Is there an early in this? This is just mid and late war. Yeah, it's been a while since I played. So this is the the way the cards come into play over time, and then it's a it's a card-driven game, so you'll be able to use stuff for actions, and then there's also events, and depending on if you're the U.S., you can play U.S. events, or the Russians, or the USSR, then they get their events, which would be this. With the red star. Then you have like your scoring cards, and that's the kind of key to this game. These are shuffled in the deck, and when these come out or when you play those, that's when you do scoring, whether you have presence, domination, or control. That's something that was kind of introduced with Twilight Struggle and carried on in like 1989 and some other games in this. Other similar games have done that. So yeah, so the cards are decent. So yeah, I wonder how these. I need to check the rules again to see if there's a way to use these or interchange the cards with the Twilight Struggle game. But there you have it. This is the heart of the game here, drawing these and playing these over time to do influence on this board through these counters. And then you have a lot of charts here. Again, this is solo play chart, events chart, it's a couple player aids, identical player aids, tell you the phases, and card play summary, the solo rules background book, the rule booklet, and then of course the box. Oh, let's not forget the dice. The dice are kind of cool. Anyway, that is what you get in a box of Twilight Struggle, Red Sea Conflict in the Horn of Africa. If you are a fan of Twilight Struggle, the Cold War, then this is probably a no-brainer. This is, it looks like it's a somewhat of a shorter version of it, something you can play a little bit quicker. But if you do like Twilight Struggle, this is a variant of it. It looks like it is something that is interesting and can play over a lunchtime, as what is intended here. If you're looking to get into Twilight Struggle, don't know much about it, this might be a good entry point in that it looks like it's a little bit more simplified, reduced in both time and area and scope. And plus with the solo rules, that might be a way to get into that game or into this system as well. If you don't like Twilight Struggle, then I don't know if this is going to win you over. This looks more of the same, and actually, somewhat of an entry point to the system as opposed to taking it to another level. Although the solo rules are take it to another level. I wonder if you can take those solo rules and take them over to the base game. Who knows? I'll have to look into that. So there you have it. This looks interesting. This is something that I will try to get to the table 2-player, but also very interested in the solo aspect of this. I want to thank GMT for sending this. This looks very interesting, and want to know what you all think about this, or if you're a Twilight Struggle hater or fan. Love to know your thoughts on either side of that discussion. and pop them in the notes down below. Always love to see comments. That's how I know you're here. As always, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for spending some time with me. Always appreciate it, and hope that you're having a good new year, or start to it at least. And if not, I hope things change for you. Anyway, take care, and thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching.